Imagine this. You dedicate years, maybe even decades, to rigorous education. You earn multiple degrees, master's degrees, only to find these bureaucratic walls and, well, allegations of corruption constantly blocking you from actually practicing your profession with dignity.
It's a tough scenario to picture, isn't it?
Right.
Especially when those walls, as you say, are in a country that's part of the European Union. A place many might think of as having clearer processes, more transparency.
Exactly. And that paradox is really what we're diving into today. We're exploring a really powerful public statement, a communique from a professional in Spain.
Right. It gives this very candid, and you can feel the frustration perspective on navigating that exact system.
Yeah, so our source material for this deep dive is this public statement. It's titled Comunicado Público. It's by Dr. Murad Aga, dated July 5, 2025.
And its stated purpose, I mean, it's very clear, is to detail his personal experiences. We're talking administrative obstacles, these claims of corruption, and the profound challenges, he says, professionals like him faced in Spain.
So our mission here for you listening is to really unpack the specific allegations in this communique. We want to understand the personal journey behind them.
And also explore the broader implications, right, for professionals, for citizens within an EU member state. We'll pull out the core arguments and the details that, frankly, make his story so striking.
Definitely. Dr. Oga kicks off his statement with a phrase that feels heavy with irony. Bienvenido a España. Welcome to Spain.
Yeah, sets a tone immediately.
It really does. He asks us to think about spending all those years studying medicine, getting master's degrees, only to find that, and I'm quoting him loosely here, the administration, due to bureaucracy and corruption, closes the doors on you.
And tries to end your ambition at all costs. That's the bit that really jumps out.
It does. And he emphasizes he's living this paradoxically in a presumably democratic country that is part of the European Union.
And that contrast he draws is, well, it's central to his whole message, isn't it? He's saying, look, this is supposed to be a democratic EU country, but the barriers he's facing feel more like something from a dictatorial regime, in his words.
He's quite direct. He claims the land is full of corrupt politicians, drug traffickers, and money laundering.
While he, a professional just trying to work with dignity, feels he's being stopped by the same corrupt or those at their service. That's a huge claim. It suggests a system, or at least his experience of it, where the structures are actually obstructing, not helping.
He also broadens it out, talks about the collective impact. He mentions self-employed workers, the autonomos there.
Ah, yes, the autonomos.
Being crushed, impeded, obstructed. But here's the kicker. They're simultaneously forced to pay taxes, yes or yes, to maintain this nefarious system.
Wow, that paints a picture of feeling trapped, doesn't it? Forced to fund the very system you feel is holding you back.
It really does.
Yeah.
And that leads him to talk about the difficulty of, well, blowing the whistle.
Right, the challenge of speaking out.
Dr. Aga claims that if you talk about true and real corruption, the administrations actually turn against you to silence you instead of investigating.
He contrasts that, doesn't he? He says it's different than when, say, a big politician denounces another politician.
Exactly. He argues it's cheaper to silence the accuser if it's a normal citizen because they're weaker and their complaints just get lost among the drawers in administrations.
Which implies a kind of selective accountability based on power, maybe, rather than the substance of the complaint itself.
So let's get into his personal story, because that's really the heart of this. He arrived in Spain back in 1985.
Right, fleeing Syria. He describes it as a dictatorial regime, one that he notes has since fallen.
But the irony he points out is, well, it's quite something. He says his country of asylum, Spain, an EU member since '86.
Seems to be following, in his view, the paths in terms of corruption of the Damascus regime and other regimes he mentions, just.
More elegantly, for show, for being part of the so-called European Union. That's a very strong comparison to make.
It really underscores his disillusionment, I think, and he details the direct impact on his professional life. It sounds like it was quite significant.
He says he lost 3 of his own private clinics.
3? Wow, where were they?
In El Hierro, in the Canary Islands, and also in Ceuta. And he claims they were intentionally closed as reprisals to the denunciations against the corruption.
So direct retaliation is what he's alleging. He's saying even as a private medical professional, he felt he was in the hands of corrupt politicians and administrations.
That are at their service.
Mhm.
He adds, inventing excuses is an art for them, and they will never lack reason, manipulating the law in their favor.
That suggests a real manipulation of the system, using the rules against someone rather than upholding them fairly.
So fast forward to today. What's his situation now?
Well, he describes operating what he calls a Kutray y Pequeña Clínica, kind of a shabby small clinic in Algeciras down in Cadiz.
And he says he's trying to survive there because, again, quoting him, someone from the usual corruption doesn't like its presence.
And on top of that, he's apparently been waiting for over 2 years, since April 2023.
2 years? For what?
For approval to expand his clinic services. He wants to add aesthetic medicine and aeronautical medicine, specialties he says he's fully qualified for.
So he has the qualifications, but he's stuck waiting for permission to use them in his own clinic.
Pretty much. And the reason he says he was given for the denial or the delay, it's almost absurd if it weren't so serious.
What is the reason?
He claims the only reason given was that moving a simple psychotechnical apparatus, like a testing machine, from one room to another,
Okay.
a distance of just some 6 meters with absolutely no structural changes to the building, that was deemed a structural modification of the clinic.
Moving a machine 6 meters is a structural modification.
Seriously.
That's what he reports was the official reason. And this, he says, prevents not just the expansion into the new specialties, but even the routine, periodic operational renewal of the clinic itself.
Wow. And did he move it back? Yes. He explicitly notes the apparatus was returned to its original place.
Yeah.
But the issue apparently persists.
That detail, it really seems to illustrate what he means by bureaucratic obstruction, using tiny technicalities as, well, weapons.
Exactly. It feels like a textbook example of the kind of thing he's alleging, creating these almost impenetrable walls out of minor details.
He also paints a pretty bleak picture of Algeciras itself, doesn't he?
He does. He calls it a forgotten land of the South. He contrasts it sharply with nearby Gibraltar, which he describes as having a brilliant economy where everything works.
Whereas Algeciras, in his description, is struggling.
Yes, he alleges it's grappling with rampant narcotráfico, lavado de dinero, y toda la corrupción y decadencia. Drug trafficking, money laundering, all the corruption and decay, which he adds is already widely known and reported in the media.
So it raises the question, and he actually poses it himself in the communique.
The million-dollar question, yeah.
Why does he stay? Why endure this calvario, this ordeal, especially when he lists his qualifications? 5 titles, 7 master's degrees, speaks 7 languages.
It's a fair question. His answer is quite brief, quite personal.
What does he say?
He simply says, for family reasons and force majeure.
Force majeure, like circumstances beyond his control combined with family ties. It suggests a really deep personal reason for staying put despite everything.
It does. It hints at a commitment that goes beyond just the professional frustrations, profound as they are.
But even with all that, he does express some hope for change. Right. It's not all despair.
No, not entirely. He specifically mentions hoping the anti-corruption prosecutor's office will move de verdad, like really get moving, take real action.
To end what he calls the mega corruption that afflicts the totality of the country.
Yeah.
Especially in this forgotten land of the South.
And he even makes a suggestion, maybe a bit provocative.
Is that?
He suggests maybe the royal family could intervene before this country collapses and disintegrates between separatism and social tension caused by injustice.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
dialing up quite a bit. He sees the stakes as potentially that high.
It seems so. He connects the alleged injustice practiced with immunity and the idea that justice itself is unfortunately manipulated by unscrupulous politicians to these bigger potential fractures in the country. It shows a real sense of urgency, maybe even desperation, for some kind of high-level intervention.
And he's clearly determined to get this message out there. He doesn't want it buried.
Not at all. He finishes by stating his intention very clearly. This communique will be issued in Spanish and 8 other languages.
8 other languages. Wow.
Yes, and not just in writing, but also as an audio deep dive like what we're doing now, perhaps, and as multilingual videos.
It's a major undertaking. Why such a wide distribution?
He explicitly says it's to prevent the denouncement from being frenada dentro de la cueva de Ali Baba y los 40 ladrones stopped inside the cave of Ali Baba and the 40 thieves.
A very vivid metaphor.
Isn't it? He says, the matter has already exceeded all limits. He wants to make sure it can't be contained or ignored.
So wrapping this up, What we have in Dr. Murad Aga's communique is, well, it's a really powerful, very personal account.
Definitely. A professional struggle against what he alleges is systemic corruption and bureaucracy right there in Spain, an EU member state.
It's a striking narrative. It really makes you think about how, even in places we might see as stable democracies, these kinds of deep-seated issues can really challenge basic principles, justice, the right to work with dignity.
Absolutely. And it leaves you with a pretty challenging thought, doesn't it? When a professional, someone who's clearly invested so much in their education and skills,
Yeah, someone trying to serve.
feels they have no other option but to make this kind of public international appeal.
Yeah.
What does that really tell us?
What does it reveal about the underlying challenges of governance, of justice? Not just in this specific case, maybe, but in any society trying to balance power and individual rights.
It's a deep question, and it makes you wonder what steps are genuinely needed to tackle issues that seem this entrenched, whether it's the kinds of solutions Dr. Aga suggests, or maybe something else entirely, something for you to think about.